I had really kind of stopped thinking that retirement was the goal, because for me, as I said before, it wasn't really about me not working. It was about me trying to get to a goal. And a lot of the goal in the fire community is hit the RE, right? Thank you. So my name is Joel Hart, and my presentation is going to be what I got wrong in my first year of early retirement. So we've talked a lot about, a lot of people here are talking about how we get there, when can we quit the job, when can we retire, and so forth. And I thought I did a lot of planning, thinking, and so forth. There's definitely some lessons learned. So that's what my talk is going to be about, is kind of to help you guys with my lessons learned. Maybe it can be your lessons learned before you get there. So, and I know what you're thinking with a title like this, what I got wrong, it's got to be one of the big three, right? The big three, like probably something to do with medical insurance or healthcare or something, like it's too costly. I can't get the right care or whatever. Actually, it is costly, but that wasn't my problem at all. I didn't really have an issue there. So if it's not that, well, what else? Okay. So it could be the whole sequence of returns risk manifested. Right? And then, oh my gosh, my nest egg just plummeted. No, last year has been pretty good in the market. So that wasn't it either. Well, if that's not it, then what could it be? So then the other thing is, well, obviously I could be wanting to travel everywhere, 42 trips remaining, 0 travel points. What a nightmare. So, you can't get much worse than that, right? I've got all these trips and I have no more travel points. Luckily, you can keep, opening new credit cards, getting more travel points. But me and my wife have kids at home, so traveling isn't really kind of on the radar right now. It'll happen later, but so that wasn't my issue either. So if it wasn't one of the big three, what could it have been? So here, let's go back a little bit and let me give you a little bit of backstory about my situation. Yeah, so I use the term shiny carrot a lot, and so I'll explain what that is in a second if you can't already figure it out. But I had a great job with lots of shiny carrots. So I equate that, I call them shiny carrots versus like golden handcuffs, because I wasn't in an executive position, but everywhere you turn, there's always something to make you want to stay one more year, one more month, one more quarter, all the things. So there was just a never-ending supply of shiny carrots. It's like you do well, and then, there's going to be a trip, or there's going to be a commission check, or there's going to be something. And it's just like, well, I can't leave now because then there's this other thing. So I had to kind of navigate that. There were lots of shiny carrots. But when the pandemic hit, it was a big blow to me because I worked in a job that was very face-to-face and very communicative, and I get a lot of energy out of just social interaction. And so when the pandemic hit and there was no real face-to-face meetings anymore, it kind of led to burnout for me because I just didn't enjoy the job so much at that point. So my company happened to have an unlimited PTO plan policy. Okay, well, what exactly does unlimited mean? I mean, you got to find out, right? So I decided to kind of push that envelope just a little bit. And so I talked to my manager and my director, and we worked out a plan that I was going to take 6 weeks off consecutively as part of PTO. And so that worked out pretty well. So we got that all worked out. And I did think there's one thing I did wrong about this too. I should have had it be all downtime, but my goal really at that point wasn't to kind of test out retirement. My goal was to kind of alleviate the burnout, right? So I was just kind of trying to get away, right? So almost like a little sabbatical, right? Just get away, kind of reset, refresh, that sort of thing. So I wasn't really trying to emulate what retirement might be, because I had lots of things planned. I had vacations and things planned. So it wasn't really downtime for me. That might have been a better option to figure out what retirement might look like. But so worked it out, 6 weeks off, essentially the entire month of June and the first week of July of 2022. It was all great. The last week of my PTO, I attended CampFI Rocky Mount 2022. Yeah, going from CampFI back to work. I'm not saying CampFI is a bad thing. No, I really, it's CampFI is great, but when you're kind of already like trying to figure out what to do, and then that's your last stop before you're going back to work after 6 weeks off. Yeah, it kind of took a little bit of a toll on me there. So I realized that it was only a matter of time after being at CampFI that I would want to probably have a more permanent form of time off. So cue the push for retirement. The plan, I had a plan, right? So the plan was give notice, help to find a good replacement for me, do a good job transition, because the number one rule of jobs, don't burn bridges, right? So we don't want to burn bridges, and because, hey, it might not work out. I might need to go back to that job, right? So I don't really know what the future is going to be. So I don't want to burn any bridges, but so transition job duties, and then, hey, retire or at least take a year off. But I figured that if I take a year off, I'm probably not going to go back to that job because I'll just be so set in freedom that I don't want to do that. And then enjoy the good life. Okay. So that was my plan. And that's well, at least that was the plan. So we'll just start with that. So, all right. So how'd that work out? Well, 1, 2, and 3 worked out great. So, I made I planned to retire, gave my notice. That all went well. Found a replacement. That went well. Did a job transition while I was on board. Everything was great. That was good. Right. So no burned bridges. Okay, that was number one goal, right? So no burned bridges. So if that means that, if that was all that was there, then essentially it's just the, upper management was very happy. I gave them like an 8 months heads up. So it was all very well planned. So if that 1, 2, and 3 went well, 4 and 5 were just retire and enjoy the good life. Well, how could that go wrong, right? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, best laid plans, they can go south. So for me, I, my pre-thinking kind of scenario, I kind of made a list of things too. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just, think of all these things I'm not going to have to deal with anymore. All these, all the things the annoyances of the job that I just get to walk away from. That sounds great. Right. So, those things would all be a thing of the past. So thought about that. And then I planned to do things that when I was retired, I wanted to, things that I hadn't tried, things that would enrich me, even things that might've been even kind of somewhat work related, but I never had time to do. So I made a list of those things. Right. So I was really trying to think it out. And then plan to spend more time with the wife and kids. I mean, hey, I now have more time to spend with them. That's a good thing too, right? So I made this plan, I'm already retired. I had already thought about these things I was going to do. Well, okay. So it all sounds pretty normal so far. So, then what happened? Well, so there was a little bit of identity challenge. We talk about people having identity, and losing the identity because it's related to their job. So I had been in my career, like essentially the same work career for like 20 years. So various types of jobs in that area. But when I left that job, that was a huge, issue of my identity was going with it. So at that point, it became very difficult for me because the things that you do, like if I worked at my job for 20 years, right, that identity, I didn't really prepare for the identity change. I knew that it was going to be, I was going to be stepping away into something new. But I mean, probably one of the biggest blows was literally like a month after I stepped away from my job, my wife and I were opening a bank account and a simple question of, who's your employer? And I'm like, I'm unemployed, which was probably not the right answer. But, and it wasn't a credit application. So it was just, just a bank account. But I was like thinking about, well, I'm unemployed. It is true. Right. But I felt so like weird saying that. And I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is my life now. I'm just the unemployed guy. So it was, that was really kind of, it was hurtful inside. I was like, wow, that's something that I really, and I did tell the lady, I said, within like a couple of minutes, I'm like, well, I'm actually retired. And she's like, oh, that sigh of relief. Oh, I mean, they're kind of the same thing, but they have very different connotations, right? Very different. So what happened here? So my job, not only did I lose my identity, but it was more than that. So my job supplied me with an endless supply of challenges, to do things like problems to solve. I enjoyed that. Part of my my job, like they gave me problems to solve that were really things that needed to be solved, and I truly relished doing that. Those were cool things. Well, when I stepped away from my job, I have all the time in the world. Like I can do those things, but have you ever tried to curate your own problems? Like it's really difficult. Like when you think there's a problem and you try to create that problem so then you can go solve it, like it may be that nobody actually has that problem. So it's kind of an effort in futility. So I kind of really missed that, right? That was a big hole to fill with just the random things that I thought I was going to do. And I had a list of things to do. But and as I mentioned before, like a lot of my job was also socializing with clients. And so, if I thought the pandemic was bad, where I went to web meetings, I don't even have web meetings anymore, right? So now web meetings seem kind of cool, right? So, and nobody says that. So, but it was really the whole the socialization part of my job. It was a big hole, right? So the identity, the whole fact that, the problem solving, the socialization, it was all gone. And so those are things that I didn't think about those things, being so important to me until kind of I stepped away. And I know that people always talk about retire to something, not from something. Yeah, I had a list of things to do. My plans were I wanted to help out at a local high school, which I wound up doing, right? That was great. Take some online courses to learn things that I wanted to learn that I didn't have time before. I did some of that. I became more active in my local FI meetup group. That was cool. Watch more. I'm a big movie buff, so hey, free time, I can just watch more movies. Theaters now have these plans, monthly plans, where you can just watch lots and lots of movies. I thought, hey, I'm going to do that too, and then have more time to spend with my wife and kids. Right. So those are things. Those all seem like admirable things. Do things that I enjoy, spend more time with family. Well, so when I go to watch a movie in the middle of the day, and it looks kind of like this, it's kind of missing something, right? So at that point, I kind of realized that, doing things are cool. Doing things with other people are better, especially when I really like the socialization. So kind of didn't, it's tough because like my friends, they have to work. They're working. Well, maybe they don't have to work, but they think they have to work, right? So they're working. So they're not going to see a movie with me in the middle of the day. And then like if I start trying to do this in the evening, now I'm encroaching on family time. So it's kind of this mixed bag. So I really want to kind of convey some things that I probably should have done differently or wish I had done differently. And one of the things that I didn't do, but I wish I had done, was I should have wrote down a list of things that I really liked about my job, liked or loved. I made a list of things, or at least mentally, made a list of things that, I'm going to be so glad that's gone. But I didn't take the time to think about, hey, I wish I could have like just, people giving me problems to solve and places to go and interact with people and these things to do that brought me a lot of joy. I didn't think to write those down. So I didn't think about, what of those things should I be doing? So because if I had done that, then that would have provided ideas for me to incorporate into the next chapter, right? So I should have searched harder probably for maybe some part-time work that involved some of those tasks, because it also probably would have helped me out. I kind of literally was working full-time, maybe not the last day I was there. I probably didn't do full-time, but up until the last day, I was working full-time, and then no more job. So then like total freedom. Yeah, cold turkey that's a bit of a shock. So maybe finding some way to wind down would be good. I'm not opposed to working, right? That's not really kind of what I was going for, but it's in the fire community. That's one of our goals, to hit that number and to retire. And I thought that was kind of what I'm trying to meet, but I probably could have done it a little better. I also wish I had made more of a structure, a calendar for some things, like having things every so often, maybe not every day. I'm not an everyday kind of like, I don't want things on my calendar every day. Certainly don't want everything on my calendar, everyday things on my calendar in the morning. Not a morning person. I I like not to have to set my alarm clock. But I wish I had made a schedule to provide some structure, because when I walked away, I definitely realized, and I don't feel like I like to plan, but I don't like too much planning, too much like forceful planning. But I miss the structure, and you kind of have freedom to do things, and then I didn't do anything, and I just felt like, gosh, I didn't do anything, which is okay, but it just felt like I wish I had done something. I wish I had done more. So having a regular schedule to incorporate things, that would have been better for me. And then, so is there too much time? Well, maybe. So I didn't realize that spending, lots more time with my wife and kids could be not so productive. So, I have teenagers. I don't think teenagers want more parental involvement. I don't, my wife is a stay-at-home mom. They've already worked out that whole parental involvement thing. I didn't realize that. So for me, guess what? I'm just inserting myself in here. Hey, more parental involvement. Yeah, they didn't really care for that. So the impact of the dynamics with teenagers, I didn't see that coming at all, right? So that was just very different than how I envisioned it. Sometimes our vision, see, everything seems rosy. Then in reality, yep, totally not that. That's kind of what it worked out to be, is that, they didn't want so much parental involvement. They had worked it out with their mom, and so for me, I was kind of encroaching and even disrupting their lives. And maybe not only just the kids, maybe my wife too, because now, 24/7 of face-to-face time. Yeah, that's a lot. So, yep. So, yeah. So, think about things you can plan to do. So specialized time is probably best. Like, have a plan to do activities, not just general time. So yeah, too much time can be an issue sometimes. So I wish I had really kind of stopped thinking that retirement was the goal, because for me, as I said before, it wasn't really about me not working. It was about me trying to get to a goal. And a lot of the goal in the fire community is hit the RE, right? So I had financial flexibility, right? I mean, if I didn't have financial flexibility, I likely wouldn't have asked for that 6-week sabbatical before, because that can cause some weird things going on at work. But I just really was thinking that was the goal, and everybody likes to have a goal so that you can finish and accomplish something, right? But and like I said, retirement seems to be the goal for a lot of people, but that shouldn't really be the real goal. The real goal should be achieving your best life in whatever form that may take. So, from the point earlier about documenting the things that you like or love about your job, well, then I just wanted to have the freedom to do those things. It wasn't that I wanted to necessarily, quitting my job wasn't really the thing. And I kind of got a little mixed up about that. So I think that the FI community is absolutely doing a lot to change kind of the mentality of retiring being the goal. There's lots of things now talking about coast FI, slow FI, being slower, more methodical, more sabbaticals, mini retirements, that sort of thing. I think that's great, because it gives you time to kind of think through it all, right? And kind of figure out what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, that sort of thing. So my thoughts would be, don't frame your goal as a retirement, but frame it as whatever your best life is, and really give that some thought, right? So maybe that's working part-time at Costco, because you can get benefits. Maybe it's driving for Uber, a couple hours a day or a couple hours a week, right? Whenever you want to do it, right? So it's on your schedule. Or choosing barista FI path, maybe that's better for your 5 years. But that's really, just think about it and figure out what is the goal. So, pay attention to the realizations that have come throughout all of our different, the FI movement in general, and through in-person events like CampFI, Camp Mustache, like the Fin Talks cruise, Economy, and others. FI really is better with friends community. Yes, I totally stole that from Diana. So, yeah, absolutely. The community has told us this. It's better to have people to do life with, and you need to think about that too. Because if your friends are at work, they're still working. They're still at work. You may not be, but they still are. So in closing, I just say rethink the goal. Don't worry about retirement, but go live your best life and do it with community, even if it includes working. All right. Thank you, guys.